Welcome back to our channel. Today we will be covering some of the coolest and nerve-chilling escape stories from North Korea. Let's get right into it. Number 10. Nayeon. Nayeon was 17 years old when she crossed the mountains into China with her younger sister to flee. "I felt helpless because there is so little food in North Korea," she says. "No one offered assistance to us, and I felt lost in the world." Nayeon had to sleep and feed in the snow to make it through the journey. Other than mountains, there was no place to go, she says. It was impossible to find a place to stay. We couldn't go knocking on people's door in China because we'd be deported. It can be tough for some people to adapt to a new life in South Korea. Friends who have completed the trip have described it as coming out of a time capsule, according to Sokiel. You have to learn a lot of simple modern skills, such as how to type on a keyboard, use a cash register, and even use a bank account and use public transportation, she says. This happened to Nayeon too, though. The number of cars was the most unexpected thing, she said. She also misses some facets of her life in North Korea, like recall playing with my friend until late at night when I was a girl, she says. "We used to have snowball wars, play ball games, and play hopscotch. That was something that I always lack." She states that she now has a lot of responsibilities in return for her rights in South Korea. For example, "If I do not work hard in school, I would not be able to attend university and earn a lot of money. That's right, I believe comes with a great deal of obligation." Number 9. Yoon-sun Kim. She remained in the northern part of North Korea, in Hamgyong province, in the village of Undok. The first time she escaped was in the dead of winter. When asked about the incident, she replied, "We may eat grass or steal food from farms during the season. However, there is no grain to rob during the winter. We have no chance of surviving. That is why we want to flee. We made it over the river, which is frozen over." She recites, "We were sold by the human traffickers in China and later sent to North Korea. We were considered as traders, so we stayed on the streets as beggars, sleeping under bridges or in markets. But we got a taste of liberty. We fled again 2 months later, this time in the springtime. We eventually arrived in Shanghai, where we spent nearly 4 years. Then thanks to relatives, we were able to arrange a trip to South Korea." She went further to say, "Also in our mother's wombs, we were brainwashed. We were forced to sing more than 90% of the songs about the Kim family or the Labor Party. North Korea is akin to going to Mass on Sunday. The Kim family's adoration is natural. You'll never be able to critique the machine if you don't get out of Kim's church." Number 8. Jo Song-jil. A South Korean member of the parliament said on Thursday that a North Korean diplomat who was acting ambassador to Italy until recently has gone missing after a South Korean newspaper announced that he was seeking asylum in the West. According to a senior diplomatic source in Rome, the Italian Foreign Ministry was unaware of the leak. According to a second diplomatic source, the ministry had no record of Joe applying for asylum in Italy. According to the source, North Korea announced in late 2018 that it will send a new ambassador to Rome. Number 7. Joy Kim. Kim, a social work student at a South Korean university, talked about the problems her family encountered in North Korea and the difficulties she faced since crossing the border into China as a result of being trafficked. Kim's North Korean family was poverty-stricken. She fled to China in 2009 after her stepmother attempted to marry her off. Kim was sold as a bride after she was unable to pay the trader who assisted in the payment of the border gods. "A broker paraded me around villages in northern China for 3 days, and crowds of men gathered to bid on me," she said. "I was handled as though I was a circus animal." She was ultimately purchased for the equivalent of $3,000 by an individual. He and his parents kept a close eye on her because they were afraid she would flee, according to Kim. Kim found out she was pregnant soon after she arrived. She said she wanted to induce a miscarriage because a pregnancy would make her imminent escape difficult, if not impossible. A member of Link contacted Kim about this time and volunteered to help her cross the 3,000 miles that separated her from South Korea. He told her, however, that crossing would be too risky for a baby. She couldn't give up the chance and wanted to flee, vowing to return to China one day to get her daughter to safety. Kim arrived in South Korea in 2013, 4 years after leaving North Korea for the first time. Because of her ordeal, she says she needs to dedicate her life to assisting North Korean women who have been through similar ordeals. Number 6. Janelle Chol. At the FIFA 2010 World Cup, an unusual occurrence occurred. It was held in South Africa, and the North Korean team that had competed in the tournament performed admirably. Even though they lost all their group stage matches, they played excellent football. However, when they returned, they discovered the team doctor had vanished. Of obligation, the group's only choice was to return to their homeland. It was later learned that the doctor had sought political asylum because he did not want to return to North Korea. Janelle Chol was a lonely man without a family, so he didn't have much to be concerned with. Anyone with their family currently living in North Korea would do such a thing. The family would also be considered as a national threat. Number 5. No Kum-sok. A Russian-built MiG-15B is a jet fighter that landed on the runway in Kempo Airfield in South Korea. Much to the delight of the Americans and Australians stationed there, the MiG wagged its wings and launched colored flares as it approached the airfield from the north, in the opposite direction of the F-86 Sabre jets that were arriving that day. It was a warning signal to the gun batteries protecting the airfield. Lieutenant No Kum-sok was a 21-year-old pilot, dropped a photograph of North Korean leader Kim Il-sung to the ground and raised his hand to show his ready rebellion. Pilots and crew members, including Australians from No. 77 Squadron, ran over to get a closer look at the MiG-15. No Kum-sok was escorted from the cockpit to a jeep by armed but friendly and interested Americans. Number 4. Park Yin-mei. Park was born in Haesan, Ryengang, North Korea on October 4, 1993. Her father served as a civil servant for the ruling Workers' Party at the Haesan Town Hall, and her mother worked as a nurse for the North Korean Army. Her father later founded a metal smuggling operation in Pyongyang, the North Korean capital. Though his wife and daughters lived in Haesan, he spent the majority of the year there. Most of her youth and family was affluent by North Korean standards. Park's father was convinced and sentenced to hard labor for illegal trafficking when she saw an illegally smuggled DVD of the 1997 film Titanic. Her perceptions of the Kim dynasty shifted, and she realized the corrupt existence of the North Korean regime. According to her, the film showed the real meaning of love and gave her a taste of liberation. Unfortunately, Yoon-mi, her older sister, left for China without informing them. Park and her family risked being blamed for Park's escape, so they traveled through China with the assistance of brokers who smuggled North Koreans into China. Christian missionaries from China and Korea assisted them in their move to Mongolia, and South Korean diplomats who raised the family's transition to Seoul. Park became a full-time human rights lawyer in North Korea after this traumatic experience ended in 2009. Number 3. Joseph Kim. Joseph Kim is from North Korea's northern province. At the age 12, Joseph saw his father dying of starvation. His mother vanishes, and his sisters escape to China in search of food as he grew up during the Great Famine of the 1990s. When he was 16, he wanted to make the perilous journey out of North Korea alone in search of food and his sister. He encountered a Korean Chinese grandmother while hiding in China, who sheltered and fed him until he was rescued by Liberty in North Korea, a non-governmental organization that offered more stable housing and eventually assisted him in escaping to the United States. As a refugee, Joseph settled in the United States in 2007. He is now pursuing an international business degree at college. He is also on the outlook for his sister. Number 2. Oh Chong-song. A 25-year-old male, Oh is one of a handful of escapees who entered South Korea via the Joint Security Region JSA. Oh worked as an industrial engineer before fleeing the country. Investigators in South Korea concluded that Oh defected impulsively. On November 13, 2017, Oh escaped from North Korea. He drove a car straight up to the Military Demarcation Line (MDL), separating North and South Korea during his escape, and crashed, losing a tire. He then got out of the vehicle and dashed across the MDL, tumbling on the South Korean side under the shelter of a low wall just meters from the MDL. Oh was flown to the Aju University Hospital in Suwon by a helicopter from the U.S. 8th Army 2nd Combat Aviation Brigade after being evacuated by South Korean troops. His situation necessitates an emergency operation upon arriving at the hospital to save his life, as he had lost half of his blood due to 5 bullet wounds sustained from North Korean soldiers during his escape. During the incident, North Korean troops breached the Korean Armistice Agreement by shooting shots over the MDL into South Korea. North Korean guards in the Joint Security Area were replaced as a result of these incidents. To prevent similar incidents, additional precautions were taken. A new gate was built along the road to Panmunjom. A trench was dug where Oh's vehicle had broken down. Number 1. Lee Ha-yeon. Lee Ha-yeon-seo, a North Korean defector and activist best known for her book The Girl with 7 Names, was born in January 1980 and currently resides in Seoul, South Korea, where she is a student. She managed to flee North Korea and later escorted her family out of the country through China and Laos. Ha-yeon was born and raised in Haesan, North Korea. "When I was young, I believed my country was the best on the planet," Lee said in a February 2013 TED Talk. "I used to sing a song called Nothing to Envy when I was younger. I was overjoyed, even though I witnessed my first public execution when I was 7 years old. I felt my life in North Korea was natural." Lee crossed the frozen Yellow River alone in 1997 with the help of a friendly border guard to follow a dream she had before starting with college, to only stay for a brief time before leaving. However, she was forced to live with her relatives in China as an undocumented immigrant due to problems with the North Korean security forces. She was able to acquire the identity of a mentally ill girl from Heilongjiang and acquire a passport and driver's license with it. She was interviewed by police and checked on her Chinese and experience of China after being suspected of being North Korean. She passed the test thanks to her father's insistence that she study Chinese characters as an infant. Let us know in the comments which story was the most inspiring for you and which one of you think was the coolest. Don't forget to share this video because come on guys, you are not in North Korea. Like and subscribe for more videos. Good luck!